feel free to get in that chat box there. Let more people in as I go, and use the chat box. Say hello to everyone. Let us know where you are dialing in from. Myself and Lewis are very, very happy that you're all here. Yeah, we had a fantastic session this morning. Really, really interesting around mental health. And as I let more people in, I will just mention this. I say to a lot of my coaching clients when I'm working with them around starting your day off with a win. It can be just waking up in the morning, having some gratitude for the day. It could be, going out for a walk. It could be getting on a bike ride. If it's winter in the UK, I use my static bike downstairs. If it's summer, I might go outside and ride my bicycle around. And Lewis, you've been doing that for many years, have you not? Starting the day with a win.
Yeah, I think it's nice to go out and either go for a walk on my own or if it's somebody wants to come for a walk with me, I think it's a great way to get started. And I certainly love to do it. Want to say a special hi to Christy, I think has joined us on this call. Haven't seen her for a long, 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 long time.
Excellent, good
Along
stuff.
with welcome everybody else.
There's Christy. Hi, Christy. Hi, hi, hi. Great stuff. And we will obviously, invite you all to, if you'd like to unmute and say things later on. If you want to interject, then please do throughout the call. But also, really do use that chat box that's being used there. Everyone using that chat box. But yeah, do have your cameras on as well if you're comfortable to do so, and you're happy to do so because it's great to see you while we're on this call together. I will just ask everybody just to mute if you don't mind. I think I can do it. Yeah, I can mute everybody just for background noise, but unmute, of course, if you'd like to speak and say something. But I just got to manage a bit of background noise when we have large groups, and I expect a few more people to join. Have you renamed yourself as Yoda, Lewis? Oh, that's funny. Okay, good stuff. So I'll be Luke then. Right. So the other thing I said about starting your day off with a win around mental health. This morning I was awarded an Oscar. I'm not joking. I was awarded an Oscar this morning at the local BNI, where I'm a member of the Business Networking Institute, and I gave my first talk and was immediately given an Oscar and given double the time to share all the great stuff that we do next week. So congratulations to me. Start the day off with a win. There you go. I shall be looking after my Oscar all weekend. Anyway, so welcome to Mental Health Remixed. Of course, it's a serious subject, and we will be sharing, lots of great learnings and information and things that we have studied, alongside some great testimonials and other bits and pieces that we feel that are relevant and important. And as I say, that chat box is really for your use, for you to connect with each other. And there was some great conversations this morning on this morning's session, and I think there's a lot we can learn from personality. And the reason that mental health is so close to my heart was because my father suffered with, I believe, undiagnosed PTSD after World War II. He was 50 when I was born in 1970, and he struggled through his later life, and passed away when I was about 18. So I saw someone struggle with, PTSD, anxiety, stress, all kinds of things, and it was very difficult. And so, therefore, anything that helps people around mental health, as far as I'm concerned, is a great thing. What I believe is that this personality diversity research that we do really adds another level to it. So you've got great mental health first aiders and great mental health agenda being pushed forward, and people talking about various things to support mental health alongside physical health. But what they don't have is the understanding of personality diversity and what it means for each personality quadrant based on our percentages of our e-colours. So just before we kick off, if you would be so kind as to rename yourself. I see some of you have already done that. You can see on my name, it says Y/R, yellow/red. You can see Yoda Lewis as yellow red. If you don't know how to do that, you just hover over the little three buttons on your screen. So put your mouse over your face on your screen. There's three little buttons, and you can scroll down and rename, and just put your top two e-colours. And the reason for that is when you use the chat box, that will come up. I'll be able to see your e-colours, and therefore I will understand where you're coming from based on your based on your e-color. So I can see Rosanna there. Rosanna, that's fine. I can see that you've got green, blue there. That's great. Duncan's got yellow, blue. Geraldine, if you're able to rename with your e-colors, various other people have done it. Chris, etc. So that's great. Um, think about managing your microphone on mute and unmute as required. And please do have your camera on if you're comfortable to do so, because it's great to see you. Use headphones if you need to. And while we're doing this, think about yourself, but also think about others as we go through today's session. And as we go through today's session, I will share a recording with you afterwards, because ultimately there's quite a lot of information. We're going to look at it. You're going to think about yourself, but it might be interesting for you to go back and think about other people when you watch it back, for instance, or something like that. So again, just for you to think about, and do contribute your thoughts, feelings, and ideas in that chat box, because it really is powerful for everyone to hear your perspectives. And we do have people from all over the world from this morning's call and this afternoon, and the similarities in personality and the predictability of personality really does play a part. And we may ask you to unmute if you'd like to share some perspective. Now, we should define mental health, I think, before we launch into anything. This is a definition from the internet, of course. It says mental health is a state of emotional, psychological, and social well-being that influences how we think, feel, and behave. It determines how we handle stress, relate to others, and make decisions, existing on a continuum ranging from thriving to struggling, or thriving to surviving. Good mental health enables individuals to realise their potential and cope with life's ordinary pressures. And I've underlined realise their potential, because that's literally Equilibria's and therefore the Life Remixed community as well. It's about realising our potential, and that's such an important piece, isn't it? Geraldine, thank you. Yeah, I can see your blue yellow in the chat box there. Thank you. Being able to cope with life's ordinary pressures and realise your potential, and that's very much what we do with our coaching in Life Remixed and in Equilibria, in order to help, because it's an important piece to do. So if there's signs of any struggling mental health, it could appear as things like, and this is not an exhaustive list, changes in eating or sleeping habits, not sleeping well, maybe anxious, maybe the mind's going over and over, and maybe withdrawal from people and enjoyable activities, if there's persistent low energy or indeed numbness. And to be honest, the way I dealt with my mental health, if you like, challenges when I was younger was numbing it through alcohol and all the other things that I got up to and I've written about in Life Remixed. But that is part of it. Low energy or indeed numbness or emotional numbing emotions and things like that. And then unexplained aches and pains in the body can happen. And then feelings of helplessness or hopelessness. And there are others, of course, but let's just understand that mental health can come out in many, many ways. How we can maintain, improve things: physical health, regular activities, balanced diet, sufficient sleep. Like I said, starting the day off with a win, eating well, sleeping well, having a good routine can really help us. And then developing positive social connections and supportive systems like what we have here, getting these groups of amazing people together to discuss these matters. And then professional care. Personally, I had therapy in my 30s, also coached by Bob Proctor, and then with Lewis as well. Seeking help, from other people, particularly people you resonate with, rather, is a very important piece. And I highly recommend it for anybody. Some people back in the day might have seen these kind of things as weakness, but actually it's a real strength to admit I have a problem and therefore I'd like some help. And I think that's a key point. And I've added this about understanding and then mastering personality diversity. Understanding it is one thing, mastering it is something completely different. It takes a long time to really start to master, when you understand where you are in the colours, and then strengths and potential limiters. But understanding it and mastering it does make life a lot easier, reducing potential conflicts with other people and managing any consequential anxieties that could occur. And these are good things, good pieces of advice with a definition that we could actually work on. So today's not just theory. It's going to be a great conversation designed to help you respond, not react, and turn any kind of pressures into a real purpose. Hopefully greater clarity, stronger relationships, and a new level of emotional resilience, or at least an awareness of what it's going to take to be able to do that, and use that chat box, as I've said. Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for the great comments in the chat box there, Rosanna. I do appreciate you putting your words in there as well. And we will have a debrief and Q&A at the end, of course. We're happy to do that. And a quick diary date for you. Friday, June the 12th, we're going to be looking at errors and error reduction. Why smart people still make mistakes and how to fix it. So that's going to be a very interesting session on Friday, June the 12th. Practical applications for high performance, and we will be inviting all of the people, including yourselves, to come and join that as well for understanding how we can reduce errors, reduce human error, which is a key part of Equilibria and indeed the whole remix piece. So this is me and my wife. Just as an introduction, I've written 4 books now. The Remix series, Life, Love, Money and Personalities. And hot off the press, brand new news for you. We have a brand new book that's coming out. It's a co-write between myself, Lewis, Paul Grant and Scott Mackay. And it's called the E-Colours Playbook. And that will be out in June, towards the end of June currently. So we're very much looking forward to sharing the E-Colours Playbook with you. We continue to share this great information because it's so powerful and it helps so many people. And perhaps you might be able to help us with that as well by spreading the word. There's the remix series. Now, the first bit around Life Remix, it was called Looking Beyond the Dance to Face the Music. Actually, what I wanted to call it was Inner Turmoil to Inner Peace. But I got kind of convinced that this would be better. And to be honest, I like it. But really, Inner Turmoil to Inner Peace was the journey of Life Remixed. And that peace is a certain acceptance, contentment, and a good place with your life. It takes time to create that, I believe, for a lot of people. Bob Proctor, my original coach, said to me that if you can work on being 95% happy and contented, and then 5% driven for more, you'll be in a good place. And I honestly believe that he's right. And certainly with that 95% of happiness, which I feel now, and that extra little 5% just to go, okay, drive on. What else can we do to bring this message to more people? Is all part of my journey and indeed what we're doing together. If you don't know your e-colours, please do go and find them out at equilibria.com. Just go to PDI-home. Find out your top 2 e-colours for free and join these calls every month whenever you would like to. The concept of the e-colours is a very important piece as well. Many of you will know it, but we need to, as I said, understand it, but then really, apply it. So red, green and green red would tend to be task orientated first, more independent, happily working on their own at times. Red, doer, take action, what and when. That's what reds would normally think about. And we all have a makeup of these within us based on our personality percentages, which I'll show you mine and Lewis's in a moment. But what and when definitely comes from red. And we've added that, red and green and red can be a little bit logical at times, a little bit less emotional at times. Understanding that no e-colour is better or worse than any other is very, very important part of our ethics as well. Yellow, blue, yellow, more intuitive, slightly more emotional at times, more people orientated, certainly, and more interdependent. Likes to have lots of people around them a lot of the time. Yellows, socializing, who's involved, let's engage. Blues, relating, supporting, why are we doing something? And then very key, faster pace, generally people will be high red or high yellow, very big picture first and foremost, whereas steady pace people will generally come in as more blue and green percentages and like to have more information. And again, if we just understand this and understand where we are on this and actually understand where the other person is, or certainly look for those indicators, we can be really, really effective in our communications. Just to give this to you again, a framework summary, if you like. Reds prefer direct action, quick decisions, and resolving issues by focusing on results and speed. Greens, more logical analysis, more methodical, careful consideration before deciding things. Blues, focusing more on empathy, maintaining those relationships and supporting others while resolving any conflicts. And yellows, keeping the energy up, the team motivated and energized and thinking very creatively at time, focusing on people. If we just understand this about the basic, top 2 e-colours of each person on the call, we start to get a clear look at where mental health challenges will come up and then what we can do about them, as we said, turning triggers into power today. Socrates said, know thyself. Here's my percentages: 40% yellow, massive socializer, 26 red, what and when, let's get it done. But why, relate, check in on people, still 25% there. And then my 9% green, my potential limitation. I don't do a lot of data particularly well. So, that's where I have a limitation. But luckily, my wife is green over blue, and she very much compensates for that for me there as well. I have strengths, I have potential limiters. We all do, and we need to understand that. Chris, yeah, I started as yellow blue actually. These two were the other way round for many years. And actually, what happened was my anxiety was sat in my blue, and I had quite a lot of fear and issues there. Coaching, therapy, etc., helped me live in the strengths of blue rather than the potential limiters, and I became more decisive. Just flipped into red ever so slightly, but I could be yellow blue some days and yellow red others for sure. Lewis, to you.
Yeah, hi, and hello again to everybody. It's good to see everybody on the call. I'm actually just listening to what Mark's saying. I think it is important to understand we are more than just our top two e-colors. And as you can see, for example, the green and blue in myself is slightly different to the percentages of Mark, which is important to understand. So, yes, my predominant e-colors are yellow, red, but I do have green there and I do have blue as well. And they're all accessible depending on the day. I think for a lot of people on this call, from what I can see, who are pretty well versed with the e-colors, as we start to go through, particularly when we're showing the infographics about the four different color styles, you already know yourself and you will immediately find yourself in your quadrant, if you like. But definitely worth having a good look at the others as well, because that's one of the things that came up this morning is there will be people around you who may well be suffering from some form of mental awareness issues, if you like, and the way they deal with it, or the way they want to deal with it, or the way that they triggered could be significantly different. So something to watch out for as we go forward. And again, good to see some people I haven't seen for a while. Dana, I haven't seen you since Colorado a long time ago. So welcome, welcome everybody.
Excellent. Yes. Good morning, USA. Indeed.
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you, Lewis. Play and pause and personal intervention really do come into this. The more we understand about ourselves and leverage our strengths and manage our potential limiters. And just to show, of course, that we all have an element of all of these things, we can all take action, we will all have thoughts and feelings, and we will all speak and have words. But some of us will be more wordy than others, like me, and some of us, like my wife, will be more thinking than me. But again, we all understand where we're all coming from here in order to play and pause with personal intervention, and then of course we get into the then we get into the research that we're going to share with you, the validated research we're going to share with you, which I think is important. I got distracted there, Chris, by your tattoo idea in the chat. Just I want to get one, but I'd have to see. Anyway, right. So look, there's plenty of personality diversity tools on the market, of course there are, but the e-colors for me is by far the friendliest, by far the most useful, and by far the best researched one, and continues to do so every single week as we move forward. But when you add it for play and pause and personal intervention, as an ex-international DJ, you can imagine that play and pause very much appeals to me. And with that in mind, it becomes a self-development coaching tool. And I remember Bob Proctor saying to me years ago, Mark, know your strengths and know your weaknesses. And I was like, how am I meant to know that? And then I did this little questionnaire online on Equilibria's website, and I got these strengths and potential limiters. And I was like, wow, brilliant, thanks. It's written in front of me. And now I can got something to work on and something I can actually use, which I think is very important. Look, we use the e-colors in so many ways, in one-to-one coaching, but also in group coaching. I'm delivering to 70 plus people on Monday, a large company in the UK, and we're all doing the e-colors together as a big group for team building, for leadership, for communication. We're going to look a little bit at psychological safety and, of course, stress we looked at last month, but essentially mental health is our big thing today that we're going to look at and show. But you can use the e-colors in any way that you would like to. You just got to get in touch and have a chat with us about it. So, as I said, knowing your e-colors is one thing, but managing them over time is quite another. Each month we'll be doing this. There's new research, new information, new shares, new awareness, and of course, new people joining us all the time. Mental health, turning triggers into power today is what we're looking at. And I want you to know that we're not here to tell you anything. We are not here to tell you things. We're here to share the research with you that we've done via our huge database and data lake, and then to read and listen to your contributions so we can understand more, around these different subjects that we're sharing. And my advice is always to become the observer. The more you can observe yourself and others around you, the more you'll see where mental health issues might be showing up for yourself and indeed others, um, even if people aren't completely aware of them. So you can ask us how you can get hurt emotionally. Of course, we started with how you can get hurt in offshore environments. But you can ask us these questions. You can also tell us today how you can get hurt emotionally, and we're going to show you some slides and things that you can tell us whether it's right or wrong, what you agree with, what you don't agree with, all that kind of stuff. We really want to show it all to you. But it's all going to be based on the 12 e-color personality styles, broken out into top colors. Now, I'm not sure if Wendell's actually joined the call, Lewis, actually, at this stage. Something else might have come up for him. But would you like to frame this for us, for Lewis? And just before we play the video, or before Lewis speaks, this is a little bit emotional, gets me every single time. So there's a little bit of a warning there that it's quite an emotional story. But Lewis, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So I don't see Wendell on the call, but basically, I've known Wendell for years. He used to work in Nigeria when I was there, and then we kind of followed each other around the world. Uh, One of the most prolific red-green personalities, I would say. Very, very clear on, the way he sees the world, as I describe on the video. And actually, when we were celebrating 20 years of Equilibria and the anniversary, I asked people if they'd like to make a little video or send us a message about what the e-colors has meant to them. And Wendell sent us this story, which you'll now hear, and it's had a huge impact. We obviously asked him if we could share it over the years, and I haven't, you cannot not be impacted by what he's about to say.
Thanks, Lewis.
Hi, my name is Wendell Davis and I'm red over green. I was asked if I could give some information that maybe help some people on the good things that equilibrium and the e-colors can do. Being a red over green means that I'm not very people oriented. Being a red over green means I'm more of a pusher, I'm more aggressive, I'm more informationally oriented. And in none of those things is the empathetic side, is the seeing through side, is the heartfelt side. And one of the biggest things in my life that has happened to me was that a while ago, and it was kind of like a big aha moment to me, was a while ago that I was confronted with somebody who was a close family member and they wanted to take their life. So I had to think, and I had to pause, and I had to listen. I had to let things soak. And then I had to learn to be blue, to be empathetic, which I'm not. And I had to learn to be yellow, to be talkative after I listened and after I soaked. I confronted the person, and after what seemed like a few minutes, which actually was over 2.5 hours, they decided not to kill themselves. So I can tell you e-colors can save a life, and I've seen it, and I've been a part of it, and I think it's something that you should consider to help you to learn about realizing your potential, like it says in Equilibria. Thank you.
Gets me every time. Lewis?
Yeah, well, I think it's worth pointing out, so he is predominantly red-green, very much, and you see the way he was pressing his invisible pause button on his wrist there. That's how much of an impact it can have. Um, and there are times when he needed to dig into his blue and yellow. The person was actually standing on the chair with a rope around their neck, just to put things in perspective. I will tell you that the red and green also comes in very useful for Wendell because his wife happens to be Ukrainian, and he was going for a walk with me one day in Houston, and he came and he said, "Louis, I really wanted to walk with you this morning because I'm not sure if I'll see you again." And I said, "Why not?" He said, "Because I am going to Ukraine tomorrow. My entire wife's family, other than the mother-in-law, got killed in a bomb that Russians dropped on the apartment block, and I need to go and get my mother-in-law out. And so, with all risk to himself and everything else, it's in the early days of the war. That's exactly what he did. And he called me when he got home and he said, Lewis, there was no blue, there was no yellow in that trip. It was just full on red green. So again, it's just interesting the way that how this relates to people in all kind of circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, as well, I think that when we show the slides that we're going to share in a minute around personality diversity, you will relate easily to your top two E colors, I'm sure. Um, Less so to the lesser percentages you have in the other two E colors. But it's important that it's not a one size fits all approach, like Lewis said earlier. And that, with all the well-intentioned training that we have out in the world, that's my problem with some of it, is that it's always one size fits all for everybody. And actually, that can't be true. And based on our research, it isn't true. And therefore, if we can do something to help others to understand personality diversity, I think that's an important piece. And I will also share with you that Paul Grant, our co-author and on Personalities Remixed, and also the co-founder of Equilibria, one of the co-founders with Lewis and others, shared that a friend of his of 57 years took his own life recently. And Paul believes that actually, if he'd have understood some of this information, that may not have happened. So ultimately, it's very, very important to understand each other. And I'm really appreciating the chat box there as well. Danny, thank you for putting that in. Perhaps you can comment at the end, Danny, as well. That would be really useful for everybody, but also all of you to understand each other here, so that we can actually move this information forward, because that pause button moment, I think, is massively important. So let me just move that forward again. Here we go. So look, the E colours is easy. We all know that it's easy to remember. It's ethical. It's an indicator, not a definition. And the ongoing continuous research is absolutely incredible with what we're doing. Look, we're looking at mental health today. We've done stress awareness last month. We're doing error reduction next month. Conflict resolution, teamwork, intentional communication, leadership development, all of these things, procedures, difficult, necessary conversations, how you can get hurt, errors, as I've said, and business development. All of it is impacted by people and your understanding of people. And part of the data lake is ultimately that we are now in the process of asking and validating 250 questions, all designed to develop people through coaching conversations. And some of the work you're going to see today and next month and next month and next month, because ultimately we just want to keep sharing it with you, what we've researched and validated. Use all the tools. You can see the wristbands, even if you have an imaginary one or a tattoo, as a couple of my friends have, and me and Chris Hunter are still obviously considering that. But use the tools that are out there, including the premium reports, and understand that we align with emotional intelligence. We also differentiate between personality and character, which I'll show you in a moment. And we have ethics, very, very strong ethics. We're not profiling anybody. Here is the iceberg analogy. Reaction is the personality piece that is predictable, the bit above the waterline, if you like, the bit you see, the E colours. That's the bit that it can be predictable, and therefore we can learn to manage it. And if we can learn to manage it, we manage our personality tendencies, we can learn to respond in a better way based on a lot deeper than just personality. But the personality piece is the important piece to learn, understand, manage, and be able to be effective with it using the play and the pause. The ethics, just very briefly, the ethics, it's not a profiling system. It's not a way to box or discriminate against anybody. It's not a finite description of who we are and how we act, and it's not an excuse for poor behaviour. And there is more to it than that, but I just want to make sure those ethics are very much mentioned. If you want to put anything in the chat box, then please, please, please do. Otherwise, we're going to move into your E-colour tendencies. So we've already understand a little bit about that overview, which is great. Now, I sent this out on an email. I attached it to it, one of the documents. We're going to look at your main strengths, your main potential limiters in the chat box. And then we're going to talk about personality styles, impacting mental health, how you can get hurt, how you can get triggered, what's your potential limiter reaction, and then a positive power shift in all of those things. And we will touch a little bit on the psychological safety and communication as well. So let's go for it. Using that chat box, Can we get some strengths from any top color reds? Have we got any top color reds in the call that would like to tell us a couple of things that they're very strong with? If you'd like to use the chat box, feel free. I'm just checking on the reds that we have in the room. I can see
We've got
Heather there.
Merle.
Heather's there for sure. Heather's a red. I know that red, green Heather, aren't you?
Merle.
Lewis, are you talking?
I'm just
Yeah,
catching
Merle.
up.
I'm saying
I've only
Merle.
just joined.
That's all right. That's all right. Merle's here as well. That's good. Yeah, yeah, that's fine. But any strengths in the chat box there are always useful. So, Reds, do you want to tell us anything? Or Merle, do you want to type anything in there or let us know some red strengths? I'm just checking. Yeah, yeah. Okay, Rosanna. Yeah, the Reds definitely take the action there, don't they? I'll show you a few of those. Yeah, swiftly move, swift resolutions. There you go. There's some red strengths. And again, I want you to understand this is stuff that we have researched. We are not telling you. These are the words that Reds have told us that they see themselves as part of their strengths. What about some yellows? We got some yellows in there. We've got some yellows that can tell us, yeah, yeah, enthusiastic, optimistic, animated. Always look on the bright side of life. I think there's a song in there. Lots of yellows chiming in. Supportive, agreeable, Duncan. Yeah, love it. Thank you. And friendly. Yeah, like to connect, Lucy. Thank you. Um, we should remix it. Yeah, I'll give it a fall to the floor drum beat. Persuasive. Yeah, very good, Trisha. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Lovely to have you on board. Can we look at the blues? Have we got some blues as well, or people with high blue, just to tell us a bit more there? I think Duncan's actually told us a few there that he's got, certainly in the yellow and the blue. Um, any blues? Yeah, Dana. Dana says blue, approachable, kind, lovely. Yeah, love that. Supporting. Yeah, absolutely. When I'm with a group of blues, they generally say calm, supportive, loyal, with a lot of empathy. There you go. There's some strengths from the blue aspect of our personality style. And dependable, yeah, yeah, collaborating, yeah, love it, brilliant. And greens, by last but by no means least, can we have some greens that might tell us about some strengths that they see in themselves? Danny, straight in, lovely, thank you, Danny. It's almost like you prepared. I'm sure the greens have prepared. Um, yeah, understanding analytical, that's the analytical side of ourselves, that logical piece coming through there as well. Nice thinking, yeah, absolutely. The Greens will be definitely be thinking about things first and foremost. There's some green strengths, and when you read Personalities Remixed, when you read or listen to our book, you'll actually go through these chapters, and you will find yourself, you'll recognise yourself absolutely as a different e-color. You'll literally read through and go, well, this is exactly me. I know that certainly happened to me as a yellow blue when I started the journey. Now we have to do the potential limiters as well. Let's look at those. Let's have a quick round robin again. Can we go reds? Have we got any potential limiters of red, or any reds that are willing to think about potential limiters of being a doer? Yeah, yeah, it can be overpowering. Yeah, it's an interesting one, Rosanna, from a red. Certainly people with red tendencies, but often without meaning to. Because they're quite often in do mode and they want to achieve and get things going, but they can potentially overpower other people in the e-colors world, if you like. Yeah, Jerry there saying can come across rude or abrupt. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because it just boom, let's go. There you go. There's your bullet points. Now crack on. And again, if we understand from the red perspective that sometimes these things can come across, sometimes without meaning to. Certainly, from each of us has got something we maybe not meaning to, but it's happening. And those are the red potential limiters that they've told us about. What about any yellow potential limiters? Have we got any there? Easily distracted, yeah. Emotional, yeah. Talkative, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Reactive, undisciplined, over desire to help others, yeah, lack of self-belief. There you go. There's some yellow perspectives there, certainly some yellow blues as well there as well. And that yellow just want to help, we want to help, but quite often we can be misunderstood unless we actually make sure that people are understanding that yellow energy. And it's a good way to describe it. Same for reds, same for blues, greens, of course. It's the same for all of us from this perspective. What about any blue potential limiters? Have we got any blue potential limiters? I'm laughing, Trish. Sorry, stubborn. Stubborn's a big one. Too nice, Jerry. Yeah, yeah. And my yellow comes out and interrupts people, Dana. Yeah, yeah, I understand for sure. Certainly, these are things that can happen to the blue side of ourselves, and we need to understand, how it happens. And the way it works essentially is that 40% yellow in my world. I'm pretty much all the yellows. I can understand all of it. I can be afflicted by the potential limiters or in the strengths. 26 red some, 25 blue some, and my green is much lower. So I don't have too much there. However, green, potential limiters. What have we got? Christy, too serious, critical, self-critical. Yes, they're a little family that can live together there, aren't they? Yeah, not deciding, Rosanna. Yeah, yeah, nice. Danny, thank you always for your thoughts there. Um, Understanding about how the e-colors actually fits into to mental health. Rosanna, overly critical. Yeah, that can happen as well. Especially if you're self-critical, we can end up criticizing others as well. And if we really start to understand where we're coming from as human beings, all of a sudden, mental health and turning triggers into power can really start to take shape. But we have to be honest with ourselves. And that's the great use of what you're doing there in the chat is really great. Thank you. So, if we're talking about pause and play, I want you to understand a core principle for today. A trigger is actually not the problem. Okay. You can choose to perceive it as a signal. Let me explain that. It could be a doorway and an invitation to grow. So if I'm constantly getting impatient as yellow red because I'm so fast paced, it's no good me just saying, oh, I'm impatient. It's actually an opportunity for me to grow and say, well, what's causing this impatience? Is that really necessary? What do I need to do about that in order to change, to grow, in order to be a better version of myself? So if we reframe this, why is this happening to me becomes why is this or what is this trying to teach me? And I think that's a very, very important point. What is this trying to teach me rather than why is this happening to me? And reframe it in this way. Life is happening for me, not to me. I love that. Life is happening for me, not to me. And Duncan, maybe you don't have to have an opinion on everything. Yeah, absolutely. Opinions are like something everyone's got one. But ultimately, for me, total acceptance and just being calm is something that I've really worked on over the years. And I don't really share huge amounts of opinion about things because it doesn't really help, to be honest. But life is happening for me, not to me. I think is a very, very important understanding. It's happening for you to grow, not to you as a victim, if you like. So the triggers actually becomes a teacher when you start to think about that. And every emotional reaction can point to an unmet need, a wounded belief, or an overused e-color strength, or indeed potential limiter. Before we go any further into what we're going to show next with these mental health slides, Lewis, do you want to add anything before we ask people about this question?
No, I think it's important to understand that again, as we had the experience this morning, as we're looking at the different personality style. I mean, we all know our personality styles, and sometimes we may get caught out when we see how other people are reacting to a situation that you may or may not react to. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons here. So it'll be really interesting to hear what people have got to say from that perspective.
Absolutely. So, is it reasonable to believe that different people with different personality styles could react or respond differently to mental health challenges? From what you've just seen with strengths and potential limiters and the chat box being so alive and people chatting, of course it is. Yeah, of course it is, Jerry. Thank you. Yes, from Rosanna. Yeah, different people are going to react and respond differently, aren't they? Based on mental health challenges, and to be honest, based on just about anything. And that's why one size fits all doesn't really work. So, let's look at this. Now, I know there's a lot of text on here, but I'm going to give you some time. I'm also going to be quiet, although if you can hear my dog, Frankie, snoring beneath the desk, I apologize. Um, how can your personality style impact your mental health? Please read the 4 bullet points there are there. Based in your top colors, I would suggest to start with. Um, Read your own top color. Does it resonate with you? What about your secondary color? Is there anything in there as well? You can watch this video back. I'll share it with you so you'll be able to look at other perspectives, but maybe start with yourself and then you can start to think about others. maybe you just tell me, yeah, top bullet points or all the bullet points or one particular subject or one particular piece. Do let me know in the chat. Thank you. I can certainly say from the yellow perspective, um, everything there as I was going through my changes, and even sometimes a little bit now. If I'm left out of something, it's like, well, why? I want to be involved in stuff, and hiding true feelings behind humour could come across as well. Alison says there, blue green, all bullet points resonate, especially the avoiding conflict. Thank you, thank you. Duncan, hiding true feelings behind humour for yellow, 100% correct. Yeah, yeah, and I think it's important to. I learned to not hide those true feelings, but actually get them out one way or another. So I still use humour, but it's not hiding stuff anymore, shall we say? So I think that's quite important. Let's say Lucy, spot on for me, yellow, blue. Yeah, great. Heather saying impatience from red and just get on with it. Yeah, and having that ability to pause, can on that is good. Yellow, spot on for. I hope I'm saying this right. Is it Kieran? Kieran, I hope that's right. Chris, yellow, my whole adult life, I've hidden my feelings, not when to upset. Yeah, okay. Found your voice now, Chris. Well played, mate. Well played. Yeah, Jerry saying blue, yellow, avoiding conflict to keep the peace. Yeah, doing it all your life. Yeah, I understand that as well, actually, Jerry. My yellow, blue was looking to avoid conflict to keep the
Mark,
peace. Yeah,
Mark, can I ask a question here? Because again,
please go.
having listened to this a few times, my wife and my and her twin sister, we all live together and have done for several years since my sister-in-law, husband, passed away. I actually don't fear conflict, but when I talk about impact on my mental health, is when they have conflict with each other.
So in that case, then you don't fear conflict because you have that lower blue percentage. So you don't, I remember you saying that you would difficult conversations or necessary conversations. You never even realised before e-colors that anyone would have a problem with having a difficult or a necessary conversation. You just thought it was fine because of your perspective.
Yeah,
Um, but you made the point this morning. It was very much about it's outside of you. It's about other people. It's about the who. If they're conflicting, that can bother you. But actually, from your perspective, it doesn't bother your conflict doesn't bother you because of your low percentage personally. Is that right? Am I thinking that correctly?
no, you're absolutely right. And the fact that I made a promise 20 odd years ago that I'd never have an argument with anybody, so that helps as well. But it's just, but seeing those two go at it really bothers me.
Of course, because you like to see harmony, right? As a yellow
Yeah,
positive energy.
yeah.
Um, the chat box is beautiful. What's going on in here? It's so good. Alison, blue green as well. Going back to the blue green, looking at it, no wonder I'm always drained. Yeah, brilliant. What a great observation to have, Alison. That's really good. I love that. I love that. Ultimately, we're all going to approach this differently. Yeah, we're all going to approach this differently. So the e-colors makes it good to be us, but also makes it, I think, important to understand where other people are coming from. So as an example, as a yellow blue, I've often been a challenge for green reds and red greens over the years. And I never understood it. Never. And then this was all put in front of me, and I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. And I will do everything in my power to adapt myself to others to make sure that I can be there. But I also need them to meet me halfway and do that as well. Um, that self-awareness is very important for everybody, for sure. Um, just looking at Rosanna's comment there, we're a family of seven, and it's been 5 years. Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that, Rosanna, about your daughter there. We each approached it differently. Yeah, yeah, based on e-colors. Yeah. Danny, I reflect significantly on incidents and events. It's healthy to acknowledge positives as well as the areas where we can improve. Yeah, absolutely. She's doing wonderfully now. Good, Rosanna. That's great. Thank you. Um, this is good stuff, right? I want you to, read it, think about it, maybe watch the recording back when I send it to you, and start to think about other people. If you don't know the e-colors of every person in your house, I encourage you to encourage them to find out their e-colors. I encourage people to use the e-colors however they possibly can in their coaching, in their training, in their development, whatever it might be, because as you say there about being drained, we need to understand that we can be in our strengths and not be drained if we're looking at that blue perspective there. But understand that other people are going to see it quite differently based on their own e-color percentages. So how can I get hurt emotionally? Again, here's some research for you. We continue to validate this research, but of course, I want to read what you have to say. Please do have a read of this. Lewis, coming to you, when you can get hurt, originally that's how we started, but as it turns out, it's quite often that physically and emotionally are the same.
Yeah, very virtual. In fact, I remember when we used to ask the question, how can you get hurt? And we were doing a session offshore, everybody was immediately thinking of physical hurt. When we did the same session in the office, everybody said, oh, you mean emotionally? And a lot of the times it was exactly the same answer. So, yes.
Mm. And Jerry makes a great point in the chat box there. As a blue yellow, when I think of the time I've wasted putting others first and then being upset when the loyalty is not reciprocated. Jerry, as a yellow, blue, yellow, red, yeah, years. I understand that. It was actually Bob Proctor said to me, Mark, what anyone else thinks of you is none of your business. And I remember it was like a little rabbit punch in the face. And I was like, what? I spent years worrying about what other people think about me or not getting hurt or whatever. Yeah. So, but I decided there and then that I would stop. I would stop that. And yeah, it is a great saying. That's right. It's important that it's none of your business. Understand e-colors helps you really be positive there. Rosanna Green, yeah, says when my careful work is rushed, changed, or ignored. Absolutely, not appreciated. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I like that, Dana, as well. So when people think my care blue, yeah, and friendliness yellow are not genuine, makes me sad. Yeah, I understand that, Dana. I really do. But essentially, what's most likely in that scenario is they're just reacting from their own e-colors without awareness. So when you start to understand this, you can be more forgiving. You can be more understanding. It's not excusing poor behavior, but at least it's showing us something where we go, okay, perhaps I can understand where this other person is coming from. When I'm working with Reds, I often make space for them to offer a decision. I might ask them, so what would you do? Because Reds like that. That I hope that they make space for my yellow energy. It's part of the deal, right? So yeah, these are good stuff, right? I can see you're all interacting with it. Take this on board. Okay. Now, when we think about mental health and getting hurt, this is more around considering mental health challenges. Again, just have a read. Thank you, Heather. Always got space for my yellow energy. That's nice of you. Thank you. Duncan saying, criticized or corrected or praised for me in front of others, and friendliness is taken for granted, especially mistaken or weakness. Yeah, absolutely. Understand that from that yellow blue perspective there. But again, please have a look at these ones. Have a quick read. Don't expect you to read the whole slide, but I suggest doing your own e-colors. Is there anything that's resonating there? Heather, I've had to learn to take criticism and got a lot better at it. Well done. Well done. Does understanding what's in front of you here help you understand yourself, but then potentially help you understand others? Thank you, Jerry. OMG, yes, definitely, Heather. Yeah. The more we practice this, it's like a muscle. The more we practice it and practice, pick up the weight, the more your awareness grows and the more you can do for yourself and also for other people. Yeah. Jerry, I'll give you a great comment in there. I don't resent my sister now so much for not reciprocating my generosity and loyalty. I'm going to give you. There's a twin, a young lady, two sisters, and one of them's a twin, and she's red over green. And she said to me when she was discovering the e-colors, she was about 17, and she said, "My twin says I'm bossy." And I said, "You're not bossy. You're just a very high red and green tendencies." And actually, they started to understand them a lot better because the twin was blue and yellow. And actually, it just made them more understanding of each other based on mental health. Based on the strengths and potential limiters. And I have to tell you as well. Yesterday morning, I was working with a group of school teachers in Singapore online, and they are introducing the e-colors to 5 and 6 year olds, and they called the strengths and potential limiters superpowers for strengths, and for potential limiters, they called them watchouts, which I think is great. So ultimately, understanding this is very, very interesting to be able to work. They weren't identical twins, no, Chris. Um, yeah, and Trisha, that's important. As a yellow blue, sometimes you might isolate or withdraw from somewhere due to feeling that hurt or rejected. But actually, if you can learn to control that and understand where other people are coming from based on their e-colors, then you'll do less withdrawing and feel less hurt, dare I say. So again, it's a period of growth for all of us. I'll show you another one. Uh, how you can get triggered. I'm going to turn these triggers into a positive in a moment. How you can get triggered emotionally if you're considering mental health challenges. Um, what do you think? Is it all resonating with you based on your quadrant? Lewis, would you want to share something?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the top color yellow one there. So you may be triggered by withdrawal and silence. So again, I think, well, we talked about it this morning, but I do see some top color yellows who will take silence as it really bothers them that there's that moment or however long it is. Whereas, for a lot of people who they may just be processing or having some thinking time before they want to respond.
Hmm.
I know we've talked about this before in the other sessions, but one of the things is when we had the privilege of working with the residential treatment centers in Texas, and I was asking teenagers, who were predominantly yellow, blue, blue, yellow, why did you start taking drugs or why did you start drinking at somewhere between the age of 11 and 16? That thing about not being liked was very, very key to them. I'm not going to say no because then people won't like me and I don't want to be the odd one out type thing. So, and they had not yet learnt about pause and play.
Yeah, that goes back to my youth as well, and certainly a lot. I didn't have a pause button, and a lot of the mistakes I made in life remixed could have been helped by understanding this kind of information. I can see the chat box is great. Many of you are interacting there and understanding what this means to you, and then the more we can look at it is what it means to others as well. Very, very important information. So, your potential limiter reaction when considering mental health challenges. Let's have a look at this. The red perspective is very interesting there. Mm. So that's very common for a green Rosanna to retreat into your head, into your thinking. There it is. Yeah. Yeah. Chris saying I can overfill my diary to escape uncomfortable emotions, leaving myself exhausted and overwhelmed. Yeah, I've had to learn to manage my own as well over the years. Very, very important to understand that each of us is going to have a different take on this. And here's the research in front of you. Alison says difficult to say no, lack of boundaries. Yeah, yeah, because you don't want to upset people. I'm going to tell you, I can tell you now, I did this session for a large group in a company in the UK. There was about 30 or so people, and one of the lads at the end was blue yellow. Largely, a lot of the company was red green and green red, and he was blue yellow. And he said, Mark, he said, I want you to know this has been amazing for me. Half day session, 4 hours. He said, this has been amazing for me because I say yes to many things at work because I don't want to upset anyone. And then I get home and I can't sleep because I'm anxious. And I was like, right, okay. And I didn't need to say anything else actually. I just went quiet and it was lovely. All of the red greens and green reds in the room apologized to him. I think his name was Ben, and he said, Ben, and they said, Ben, I'm so sorry. Just by me turning up and doing the what and the do and the how and let's go, and you not saying no and us not understanding your personality, we've been contributing to the fact you feel anxious and you're not able to sleep well at night. I'm so sorry. That to me is beautiful because that's awareness, isn't it?
I
And they
think
can
that
take, sorry, Lewis, go on.
I was going to say I think that's great. I mean that is as we talk about psychological safety or having a psychological environment where people can speak up. I think that's phenomenal, and it actually speaks to what we're talking about this morning because when we're talking about reactions around mental health challenges, I think, it would be really good for like HR people to understand this because what you'll hear, and in the UK, I keep reading all these reports about how many people are off work because they have a mental health issue and people don't believe them.
Mm.
Because 5 years ago, nobody said they had a mental, a mental awareness issue. So I think there's a lot to be gained for everybody when you learn this stuff.
Massively. And I believe the more this is adopted, the more we understand it, the more we can then cater for that to reduce stress, reduce mental health challenges, and actually help people get back to work and actually be effective and add value to their lives. It's very important to understand that. And actually, it used to be that most people were off work back in the UK with bad backs. That was the biggest. The statistics were off the charts. People saying they had a bad back, so they stayed at home. Now it's mental health, stress, anxiety is the biggest reason that's being used. But unfortunately, a lot of companies will just see it's just an excuse. Well, it's not actually. It's a reason they're off work. But let's use personality diversity to actually understand that there are reasons for it, and we can actually help people rather than just label them as they're just using it as an excuse. So that is very important. Thank you, Lewis. Let's go positive. What's your positive power shift considering mental health challenges? Have a look at your quadrant or your top two quadrants and think about what you could do mentally for yourself to move into a positive power shift. We talked a lot this morning about going on a negativity fast, having a negativity fast, switching off all the negativity, just moving it out of your life, don't allow yourself to be in a negative vibration. These are ways that you could think about doing that. Chris, great point in the chat box there as well. And Rosanna says, I know what I need to do, but how do I pull from my red to take action? The how question is a very green question, Rosanna, and you're quite right to ask it. How is through, first of all, self-awareness. Second of all, personal intervention and actually practicing personal intervention and doing it really consciously. And the other way is reaching out for some help, working with a coach, working with someone who can help you, make sense of it all and move forward. But certainly the how question comes up a lot. Anyone with high green percentages. Lewis, do you want to talk about the positive power shift?
Yeah, well, again, I think there's as one of the things that we talk about is it's interesting is the natural thing for us to say because of the work that we do is, first of all, recognize it's happening. if you can then find a way to quieten your mind down, I think is really important. And then actually, I was going to just tell you, it's kind of funny, but it's not funny, is when my mother, before my mother passed away, she spent the last few years of her life being a grief counselor in Australia. And she worked for an organization called Dial Mum, where people who were about to commit suicide, jump off a bridge, shoot themselves, etc., would literally call. And my mother had done a few years of training because, as she was predominantly yellow blue, she loved to help people. She told me that a lot of times the same people would call over and over and over again. And there was this one girl, young lady, who kept calling and saying, I can't stand it. Every time I turn on the television, the news is terrible. There's been a shooting here, there's been this, there's been that. And my mother, in her pragmatic mode, said, well, don't turn the television on. And sometimes that, if you want to break the chain, you've got to do something different because we're being bombarded every day with social media opinions. If you're in the UK, Piers Morgan, you name it, everybody, bang, 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 bang. And do you get to a point where all you're hearing is negativity? And the only way for you to make that positive power shift is for you to do something about the things you can do something about. Just
Mm.
my opinion.
No, no, and rightly so. And also, Lewis, naming the sort of inner critic or that inner
Yes,
voice. You want to
yeah.
share that one as well?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And actually, this was fascinating to me because I did not know this until literally weeks ago. But I was talking to one of the people I coach in Angola, who's predominantly green red, and she kept telling me, "Oh, the biggest problem I have is I'm so self-critical and I'm so self-critical." And I said, "Well, let's talk about it next time," because it was right at the end of the call, and I had another call. I then went out for a walk and just happened to land on a podcast by mistake, actually, but thank goodness I did. And it was two therapists talking. And one was talking about the fact that she was extremely self critical. So my ears popped up, thinking maybe this is something that could help the person that I was coaching. And the other therapist says, so what did you do? She said, oh, I call anytime I'm about to be self critical, I call her Betty. And then basically, she says when she feels herself being self-critical, she goes, Betty, be quiet. This is not the time. I've got other things to do. I posted it on Mark's WhatsApp, where all of the practitioners are on there. And below and behold, the first five people all had names that they used for whatever it was they were dealing with. So maybe that's quite a nice idea, is to, when you've got something that you know is challenging you, give it her a name or him a name, depending on how you want to go about it.
And an interesting point about that is you're externalizing it, and then actually you end up like talking to someone, someone, something else. But actually, I quite like it, and I don't really have that inner voice anymore. My inner voice is just cheering me on all of the time, thankfully. But it's taken me years to get there, I promise you. But I did think about if I was gonna, I'd call mine Dave. I don't know why particularly, but then someone else this morning called you could call it Doubtful Dave, and I'm like, yeah, there's no room for Doubtful Dave. Let's move on. Back off, Betty. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go.
um, Trisha, brilliant question. Uh, Speaking of quieting minds down, do some e-colors tend to suffer more from anxiety than others? Well, I can honestly say from personal experience, blue, the blue side of ourselves, if we're in potential limiters, can suffer with anxiety and blue percentages. But again, that might be more to do with the bit beneath the iceberg, the piece beneath the waterline, rather than just personality. But I do see anyone with high blue percentages generally suffering more with anxiety. But that's anecdotal, Trish. But it's definitely something I've observed. Lewis, have you got a thought on that?
Well, I think if you when you first showed the initial e-color spread there, when we talk about people who are more emotional or less emotional, I don't know because maybe people here could tell us. But certainly, I think people who have got the emotions are a little higher in the surface probably get anxious a little bit more from their perspective. But that doesn't mean that people, for example, a top color red who is not achieving the results they're looking for, do you get anxious?
Well, and on that note, Rosanna's just made a brilliant point there, which I completely resonate with. Taking on others' feelings can get heavy. As a yellow, You just want to help, that helpaholic thing. If you don't pause it, you jump in, you jump in, you want to help, help, help. Um, and if other people are not as happy as you are, then you end up, feeling hurt, taking on their emotions, and it gets heavy. And yeah, I totally get that. But yeah, I would say hopefully that's answered your question, Trish. But again, positive power moves. Yeah, positive power moves we can take. You know, use empathy to show myself the same kindness there. Very important for yourself. Prioritizing yourself is not selfish. Prioritizing yourself is actually when you're on the airplane, and they say put your own oxygen mask on first. That's what you need to do. But a lot of empaths, a lot of blue relators, high blue relator percentages will automatically think about someone else first.
Sorry, just picking up on what Danny's saying there. That's exactly where I was going. So, Danny's put, I think that anxiety can emerge from different places. Therefore, anxiety is likely to be common across all the e-colors, but the mechanism differs. And I think that I'm pretty sure that that has to be true, because at the end of the day, for example, top color green, if they're not getting the perfection level they want, if the information is not enough, all of these things can create anxiety for a green where somebody else might not bother about it. So.
And if you think about it from a high red as well, if you're not getting the results you want, you might get anxious about that as well.
Exactly.
So yeah, it will show up for all of us in different ways, and that's what I mean about the bit I think beneath the waterline, not just the personality aspect, but certainly. Okay, um, okay. What is your potential limiter reaction? I think this is important as well to understand. That we need to. I think we've done that one actually. Sorry, my bad. Positive power shift. Okay, here's a quick bullet point for the positive power shift for people. If you want a quick understanding, start to look at the people around you. If they're decisive and driving for achievement, they're generally going to be in their red perspective, and that can be a positive power shift for them. We need to understand that that's what's going to drive them. Green clarity systems, more grounded thinking, taking a bit more time to think, and actually make some positive changes there from the green perspective. From the blue, that empathy, that healing, and that support. And from the yellow, inspirational connecting and storytelling. We need to understand where each of us is coming from. And if we can understand and appreciate, we start to get better results around mental health and turn those triggers into power, which is what we're talking about today. If you notice the trigger, you can name it. That's what we were just talking about. You can breathe, you can steady away, and then you can choose to do something about it. Choose your response. First thing do, ask what would my e-colors do? We've shown you research there. What would my e-colors do? But then what would their e-colors do? And that's why you might want to watch this video back if you're thinking about someone else in your life who's either having mental health challenges or indeed a challenge at work or in any other environment. What would their e-colors be doing? And then look for those indicators. It can make life so much easier. Your greatest trigger is often where your greatest power lives. Bob Proctor used to say, face your fear, and everything you want is just the other side of your greatest fear. My greatest fear was public speaking many years ago. You wouldn't guess that now. When I was a DJ, I had the music to hide behind. But then when it's just me and speaking, it was always a bit of a dodgy one. And then, of course, today I get an Oscar for public speaking. So anyway, there you go. So the point is that actually facing your fear, overcoming your greatest fear, doing the work. You have to do the work. If you don't do the work, nothing will change. Pretty simple in that respect. Triggers are not weaknesses. They're just an untrained power that you haven't worked on yet. Keep studying, keep growing, and keep learning, and you're going to tend to get better results. You have to keep studying, keep learning, keep growing. And you get to choose. There's a million different places you can get information, but you're only going to get the personality information and research that we do here, of course. Look, the remix formula. Trigger happens, awareness of it, choice through pause and play, and then choose a power shift. And help other people. Find a way to help others. That's what I've been doing for the last few years and continue to do so. It's very key, very important. Trigger, awareness, choice, power, and you're on the right way. So, is it reasonable to believe we might all like feedback differently as well? Is that reasonable to believe that? Just interested in your thoughts. Yeah, yeah. So we're all, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great. Okay. So we're all going to want some feedback differently. Communication, Lewis, is a big one. I would say these last four bullet points, many of you, if you know your e-colors, you're probably going to know the top four bullet points. But think about the second four bullet points on each one. Dana likes your feedback sugar coated in a nice way as a blue yellow. I'm sure you do, Dana. Um, Not take it to heart as a yellow. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Have a look at the particularly the last four bullet points. Lewis, I'll hand over to you about intentional communication.
I think this is really important. They say that the most three, well, it's the three things that probably are the most powerful in life is communication, communication, and communication. If you think about how many times you thought you were doing the right thing by communicating, and for whatever reason it didn't land. I mean that goes on in the household, it goes on in many, many walks of life. And I think when you have a look at this, understanding let's just take a couple of examples. So if I look at, and by the way, like everything else that we do, as Mark referred to, everything that you're seeing is what people told us, just like you. So we didn't guess any of this. But if you look at, for example, the bullet there on the red about they describe themselves, or you read describe yourselves as speed listeners. To somebody who's not a top color red, who likes a lot of information and likes to give a lot of information, it can look like they're being ignored if the red has kind of got what they need and they're off to the races. If it's somebody, who's the top color blue, I see this a lot, even in the schools where we work, why? The answer can't be because I told you so. That doesn't work. Until you satisfy the why, the people aren't going to actually get to where they want to get to. So as many different pieces of information as we give out, this slide is fundamental to getting on better with people, communicating more effectively. And there's one thing that's really occurred to me, what you said before, Mark. One thing, how many times have you talked to somebody and they go, "Oh, we've done the e-colors.
Hmm.
Great. What did you do?" But there's all these levels of everything from novice to mastery and everything in between that really just practicing that which works is worth its weight in gold, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Repetition is mastery.
Yeah,
I'm 15 years in and I will never stop learning. And I sense the same from you, Lewis, as 25 years into this as well.
yeah.
What was quite funny this morning was at the BNI, there was a guy, he went, "Mark, I'm really interested in what you do. I'm very high red." And I went, "Okay, right." I said, "Well, that's really interesting." He said, "Yeah, I've done all this kind of stuff before." And I just went to explain to him about, well, it's all researched information. It's different from anything else. Da 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 da. And I could see him just speed listen. He completely ignored me after that. And I just smiled and I didn't get upset about it. I just smiled sweetly and went, "Okay, we'll talk about that later then, shall we?" Again, it's just nice to understand. Yeah, he wasn't being rude. He was just in red. That's all. And the same with yellow and blue and green. People are not necessarily being rude or trying to antagonize you. They just operate in different ways. And if we're able to understand it, and that's what the e-colors does for me. It helps us make sense of it all. When you're getting feedback, look at your quadrant. I'm sure the Reds will tell us that is absolutely, correct for them. Not so many words. Be clear, be brief, be gone. I'm sure the Yellows will look at that as well. And yeah, I can resonate with all of those. Yellow defo. Yeah. Thanks, Chris. Um, Green, you know, Greens tend to ask me a lot of questions. Being married to one, I'm sure you can understand that. And the Blues. It's important to explain why.
I
Uh,
do I do think it's important here, Mark. One of the things that I notice on here is, we do a lot of 360s for people. People who are top color red and sometimes top color green, they will never look at a piece of that information about what they're doing well. They immediately go to what they can do better or what they need to improve. Whereas the
mm.
top color yellows that I work with anyhow, they want to know everything they're doing well before you even touch on what they can do better.
Oh yeah, Tell me how great I am as soon as possible. Um, I'm joking. I'm not joking, but I'm laughing. Danny Kett has a green red there. It's very interesting. He says, "I have to say, I love a story or an analogy." I love that a self-aware green. Danny's a practitioner with us as well. I love that a self-aware green red is saying he loves a story. But I wonder if you always tell lots of stories, Danny. And I think that would be interesting from a green red perspective. From a yellow perspective, I telling stories all the time. You hear Lewis interjects with stories. It's powerful, but it's no better or worse than any other e-color as well, right? So it's very, very important to understand that. And we're all great. Thank you, Rosanna. That's very kind of you. Different feedback for different people. If you think about in HR or if you're working with people when you're giving them feedback, understand their e-colors and how to give them feedback would be very powerful, would it not? Let's just touch on psychological safety as we come to the last sort of 15 minutes or so. Is it reasonable to believe we all need different things to feel psychologically safe? I think the answer has to be yes, doesn't it? Okay. If that is correct, and feel free to push back on anything, but if we need different things for psychological safety, and Lewis, you said this morning about if we're gonna perform at our best, we need psychological safety. All of us, red, yellow, green, blue. Let's have a look at it. Have a look at your quadrant again, or two. I can tell you right now, if you want me to perform at my best, make sure I feel included and valued. From yellow. What about anybody else? Anything else that's resonating with people?
It's interesting that for some people, well, they tell you, you can read the room. And I've often walked into a room and immediately felt something's not quite right. And I'll be with somebody of another e-color combination. They go, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, yeah, as a DJ, I would say I used to read energy in a room quite clearly. Um, and got quite good at it, I think. And certainly the e-colors allows me to read energy in the room as well in a good way. Um, but we each have our way of reading it, don't we? And it's more important to some people than others.
Yeah.
This is what do you need to feel to be able to perform at your best around psychological safety? And there will be based on your percentages, remember, there'll be a bit of everything within this. If you were 25% of everything, you'd probably recognize lots of different things in lots of areas. But depending on your e-colors percentages is how you will understand or certainly appreciate what we're sharing here. This is what you could do for others. And I particularly like the pause at the end of each one. Again, just have a little read. The pause on the last point is probably the toughest thing for everybody on each quadrant. It's very easy to say press pause on being too judgmental or expecting perfection, but a green who is in that is gonna be challenged there. Same with the blue about not getting triggered emotionally. Same with the yellow. Learn to stop talking. And same with the red. It doesn't come naturally necessarily to delegate. You might be doing things just on your own. If there's any comments, let me know. Otherwise, we'll move forwards. Again, I think it's important to understand that each of us has something to master based on what we're looking at and the research that we've got. Great stuff. Look, ultimately, if we have personality-based reactions, we may end up with regrets and indeed impacts on ourselves, people around us, even work, environments, different things, it's different situations. If we are able to pause and play on personality-based tendencies in order to have a more character-based response, we're likely to get more favorable, more intentional outcomes. And I can say that from experience that Bob Proctor said to me, "Your ways of working, Mark, try mine." And he was right at the time. And I did try his and fed into the e-colors, met Lewis, and here we are. I think it's very, very important to understand that you do, when you master this and continue to work on it and continue to master it, you do get more favorable results more often than not. Knowing yourself, knowing others, and then distinguishing between personality and character to respond and make a conscious choice tends to give us better outcomes. And Lewis,
Yeah. So when Mark and I were, talking about how what we wanted to talk about this afternoon, it occurred to me that one of the things that could well help people is what Stephen Covey called the three spheres or three circles of influence. If any of you have read The Seven Habits of Highly Successful People, this was something that he pointed out. And this really can help. So I guess one way, if you're finding yourself in a bit of a pickle mentally, you can call Betty and tell her to back off. Another thing that is well worth thinking about is, and I'll just run through it very quickly, but the way that he described it, if you can think that there are basically three circles from which you can operate. The circle of control are things that you can directly do something about. And the reality is there's not much of them that you can do. The circle of influence are concerns you can do something about. And the circle of concern, which is a wide range of concerns, are typically things beyond your control. So if you think about what we've been talking about today around mental awareness, about how you approach life, it's well worth, when you've got time, just get a piece of paper or however you capture your information, make yourself 3 columns and write down all, well, actually start with what are all the things that are going on in my head right now that could potentially impact my my awareness around my mental health. And once you've got that entire list written out, then start to put them into one of these three circles. So, for example, the war in the Middle East, the war in Ukraine, the lack of water that will happen if they start bombing desalination plants over there. What's going on in the UK with elections? What's going on now with all of the killings and everything else? All of these things are probably in your circle of concern. You can't do anything about it. So how much of that are you allowing into your head to where it eats up things that you could be thinking more about? Circle of influence. What can I influence personally that can help myself and others? So, for example, the fact you've come on this call today, that gives you a chance to be in this kind of united circle of influence. Can you take that to other people who may benefit from it? And last but not least, that circle of control. What can you directly control? So if you find yourself, and this you can control, about to become anxious, getting into a state that you really don't want to be there, you've got choices of where you put it and how much energy you're going to expend on it.
absolutely. And the bit at the bottom there about letting go.
Yeah. If it's not something you can do something about, just like the song says, let it go, let it go, let it go.
Ultimately, what we're looking to do here is get to that level of appreciation of everybody and all things that are happening for us, not to us. It goes through total acceptance, which I wrote about in Love Remixed. Many people start with doubt and resistance, though, as well, and that's okay. But ultimately, it's the growth aspect of what we're looking to do here altogether. If you want to become an e-colors practitioner, give me a shout. I do have some training slots next Friday and indeed at the 28th and 29th of May with people joining us and getting involved as practitioners. Couple of things. I love Fenu's words when he says, I thought it was all grey matter, but now I see the colours. And Lloyd's words about, more importantly, getting the best out of people that are wired entirely differently from myself. I think that's very, very powerful. We've also got a small piece of information here about how to get your PDI, your premium report, onto your mobile phone. So mine is now sitting on my desktop of my computer like an app, so I can access it very easily. And I'll send this out to you after the call, so you actually have some information on how to get your premium report onto your mobile phone. Remember that Errors remix session on Friday, June the 12th. You can reach out to Lewis and I for coaching if you would like to speak to us. We'd love to hear from you. We are going to have a get together on Saturday, June the 6th in Surrey. If you're in the UK, I'll be sending some more information out about that. Key point here, look, treat people as you would like to be treated is a golden rule of life. But let's be clear, there has to be another level to that as well based on e-colours, which must be treat people as they would like to be treated. If you can understand their e-colours, where they're coming from, then you're in a better place. I'm going to take off the share in just a moment. Any feedback in the chat box as well, please. If you've got something there that you're happy for us to share, I won't put your name or anything, but if you've got some words about what's gone well today, what you've thought about, learning about yourself and others, and any actions going forward, I'd love to have those in the chat box just so I can use them as potentially as a social media post or something like that, just to say that this is the feedback from the session. I did that this morning. Otherwise, I'll take off the screen share. If anyone would like to show their face or unmute or say anything, would you like to share anything, everybody? Jerry says, utterly enlightening session. I now absolutely wish I knew the e-colours of all my closest friends and family. It should be mandatory for the whole population. Jerry, I hear you. I hear you, Jerry. And the more that we can actually understand this for every human being, it would be an absolute joy. I wish I'd been introduced to it at 10 years of age rather than 40. But it's not a regret that. It's actually just part of the journey. But Jerry, do you want to unmute actually and just say anything? Do you want to share something? Are you comfortable to do that?
Yeah, it just wouldn't we all understand each other so much better, and stop all people taking things the wrong way and the things the time I've wasted stewing over things that somebody's said to me after I've bent over backwards to help them. It would just be so freeing to be free of all that, those negative thoughts and the lack of understanding.
It's such an important point, and thank you for sharing it. And one of the pieces of advice we say in training and coaching with people is, particularly if you have a high blue, is learn to stop dwelling on things beyond your control. Now, it's very easy to say that. If I'm honest with you, that took me 3 years of therapy and probably about 5 years of being coached before I could ever start to even get there. Because, like yourself, as when I was more yellow blue, I used to dwell on all kinds of things for such a long period of time, and I never understood myself very well, let alone other people. But this journey and just what we're showing you here, hopefully, will start something for you and be a positive.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure. Thank you.
And please, a pleasure. And please do join us next month and the month after and the month after. You're always very, very welcome. Great stuff. Thank you. Anyone else like to share? Christy.
I'll share.
Hi.
I just love that the e-colors make space for everyone to be heard, and when you get in your own way, or when somebody says something, that even if it's not the intent, trying to hear where they're coming from, or why you're being hard on yourself or something. It's just such a nice refresher. And I met Lewis years ago, so I've had this information for a long time, but just to kind of hear all of it again, it's like, I know that, so thank you so much. It's wonderful.
That's an absolute pleasure. And Lewis, I'm sure you probably want to share something, because you mentioned when Christy and I connected on LinkedIn yesterday, you mentioned something, didn't you?
Well, it to a point where I can still remember with her family arriving at a hotel where we just had a 5-day session in California. I don't know how many years ago it is, but it's interesting that people will actually. I just put an article out the other day about real-time legacy, and a lot of people think legacy is some statue at the end of the street or something. But to me, real-time legacy is moment by moment. And I can remember all the conversations Christy and I had at the time, just like I can remember with Dana, when we went for a cappuccino in Colorado. And when you're a people person, this is like hog heaven, let's face it.
Actually, I really appreciate all the great words in the chat box. I'd love to hear from a few people I haven't actually sort of spoken with before. I mean, Lucy, are you comfortable to unmute? Are you able to speak? I see you in an office. Hi,
Oh,
Lucy.
hello. Yeah, sorry. Hello.
Hi.
Yeah,
Hi.
sorry. I don't know. What do you want me to say?
No, I'm just interested. You said you basically just said it was amazing, and thank you
It
so much. I was
was.
just
Thank you.
interested
It's
because you're a people person, so I guess it resonates
yeah.
in that respect.
Yeah, I think I find it quite hard to get on with the red green side. I think I find it quite hard to put myself in their shoes. So I think something like this is really helpful because it is all laid out. I just find it hard to connect, I think, with people that don't have the yellow blue side.
So, if I give you an example, I had someone recently said to me, "I hate yellows." Right? And yeah, I know, and I was like, "Whoa!" And I said, "As a yellow blue, I would have found that quite offensive, actually. But as a yellow red, I'm kind of okay with it." Yeah, I
Yeah.
see that, Donna. But you know, he said, "I hate yellows," and I said, "Okay." I said, "Okay, so as a yellow red, I'm okay with that. Why do you hate yellows? What's going on?" And he said, "Oh, well, you know, always coming in." He was red green, by the way. He said,
Yeah.
always coming in, always interrupting me. You know, I'm just trying to get something done. I'm, you know, getting information, getting in the weeds, but I want to get it done. You know, and they're always talking and distracting me. And I said, okay. I said, oh, I understand. I said, are you describing a yellow without a pause button? And he went, yes. I
Okay.
said, that's exactly what I'm describing. Now, if we flip that on its head
Yeah.
for the yellow
Yeah.
blue side, rather than saying, and I appreciate what you're saying as well, because I can be a challenge for red, green, green, red, and also they can challenge me quite a lot as well. Um, are we describing a red or a green in that without a pause button, right? Or
Yeah.
without that, but you know, without that self-awareness? Because
Yeah.
actually, when a red or a green brings their amazing energy and they're living in their strengths, that can really complement blue,
Yeah.
yellow, yellow, blue as well, right? So again, it's I understand your point completely. It's
Yeah.
just very much about that self-awareness piece of introducing this to more people.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I'm coming to you, Danny. I knew Danny would have something to say about that as well as a green and red. But thank you, Lucy. That's great. Go on, Danny.
Thanks.
I think sometimes the disconnect can be that the way that if you say you struggle to connect to somebody who is a different E color, it may not be that that person doesn't want to connect, but they connect in a different way.
Mhm.
So the understanding of maybe somebody who's a strong green or who's a strong red, if you're coming from the fact that you're a strong yellow or a strong blue, doesn't mean they don't want to connect, but their style and nature of connection is different. So you've got a mismatch where maybe they want to connect and they feel they can't connect with you, and vice versa. I'm not talking about you specifically. I'm just talking
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. No. In that case, it would be good if both people could compromise a little and meet in the middle.
And this goes back to Jerry's point earlier, is that you know, if we all knew this, wouldn't it be really
Yeah.
useful, wouldn't
Yeah.
it?
Be
So
amazing.
yeah, it would be amazing. That's right. I have a little dream. Sorry, Danny, I'll come back to you in a sec. I have a little dream that we'll all walk around with if we want a little badge or something, or a wristband or something that we all can like identify with. But sorry, Danny, back to you, mate.
No, I was just going to pick up on that last piece that Lucy said, because she's absolutely right. If everyone could kind of meet in the middle a little bit, everything would be much better. The reality of it is that if you know about this stuff and other people don't, and you want to connect, then there is the onus of responsibility almost sits upon us if we want to engage with other people to find and if you meet somebody on their own ground, quite often you can draw them back into the middle ground, but not necessarily wait for them to be there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm, mm.
That's really good.
Love that. Absolutely. Great stuff. And the key point for all of us is to live in our strengths. You know, if we're living in our strengths, we're going to be less concerned about other people if we're in our potential limiters. You know, we might be more concerned about that. But if we're able to live in our strengths, and that's why I urge everyone to get the premium report, you know, to study our books, to study our information, you know, dive into this because it makes a huge impact on your life and on your success ultimately. So yeah, unless anyone else would like to share, I'm sorry we've overrun by 5 minutes. Trisha, would you like to share something? Please do.
I have to unmute myself. There we go. One of the things I've joined a lot of sessions like this, and been I've been working with you for a long time, Mark. But one of the things that really struck me today is how even other yellow blues sharing how they respond to situations has been real learning for me. So we all learn from each other's experiences and then create that connection. I love that today. I love noticing that today.
That's awesome and that's amazing. And yeah, you were actually on my very first session during COVID where I was becoming a practitioner, and I put on my first session probably about 6 years ago now, 5, 6 years ago. Yeah, it's still a learning curve for all of us, right? You know, it doesn't end. I said to Lewis on this.
Absolutely.
I said, Lewis, on this morning's call with Lewis, you know, you can be aware of it, but you might not master it, and you don't learn it in 5 minutes. Like, oh yeah, I know that. This is a human being, right? That needs to learn, connect, grow, observe, understand, connect. You know, it's so powerful, and it never ends. It will never end. And I want to answer Jerry's question. So thank you, Trish, and that's lovely to hear. I want to answer Jerry's question there. It says, as you are experts on this, does this mean you never have an argument? Jerry, I can tell you right now that Lewis, I'm going to ask you in a moment because I know it was one of your 5 commitments, wasn't it? To never have an argument. I can tell you right now, my e-colours are complete opposite to my wife. We never argue. She doesn't need me to argue. Lewis says this about his wife. She'll have an argument on her own. From my perspective, we never, ever, ever argue, ever. Lewis, to you.
Yeah, I made a conscious decision years ago that I would never have an argument again because I realized again it wasn't probably, and I've never had an argument with my wife ever. She's blue green, like he says. She can argue on her own. I just sit there like a tennis match watching it. But I used to argue on behalf of the company I worked for all the time. We were going through mergers and acquisitions, and my job was to try and convince about 23,000 people over the world that it's all going to work. And I'd have people banging on hotel doors at 2 o'clock in the morning telling me I was wrong and this, that, and the other. But once I made my mind up not to argue, everything that we've talked about today becomes significantly more useful because then you have to understand where other people are coming from. It isn't, not everybody, as Danny says, sees the world through the same lens. But the onus is on us, because typically people don't do much self-awareness, and so the more that we can learn about it, the easier it becomes. It also makes you more curious to understand why they're seeing it the way that they're seeing it.
Absolutely, and I want to share something. I took the slide out actually. I was in this morning, but I took it out. But I want to show it to Jerry just because of the question that she's asked there. But the other thing I would say is that Lewis, what you were saying there was what you were persuasive and arguing on behalf of the company, but it actually led you to being over. It was an overplayed strength, and it ended up to you being completely exhausted, right? Which led to the breakdown, which was your story at the end of the day, which is
Yep.
really interesting. And Jerry, what I'd like to say to you is please, if you get a chance, read my book, Love Remixed, because I think you'll find it really interesting. And I want to show you something about me and my wife. This is me and my wife. These are our e-colors. What do you notice there around the yellow percentage, Jerry? Can you see that? It's quite different, right? So it's me on the left because I'm here
Good.
on the call with you. And Emma's on the right over there. 3% yellow, very, very quiet. Doesn't do a lot of talking.
Huge difference. Yeah.
Now look, what about the green thinker?
Huge difference again, but opposite
Right.
way. Yeah.
So she does all the thinking and I do all the talking. But actually, somewhere in there, and Trish, you're saying you can't believe that Emma's only 3% yellow. She can dip into that, but it's so hard for her to do it. She will spend a day at an event and be utterly exhausted at the end of the event, whereas I'm utterly energized at the end of the event. And that's the difference between, a more quieter, more steady paced person as a green blue. So what you're noticing on these two pie charts is opposites attract. Yeah. In yellow and green. But are you also noticing like attracts like in red and blue?
Yeah.
So actually, we've got all bases covered here, and there's no reason for these two people to argue once they understand what's in front of you.
Amazing.
Thank you. There's absolutely no reason for these two people to argue because when Emma's in detail and wanting to maybe not speak and go quiet, and I just let her, I'm like, no problem. It's all good. Whereas I really want to jump in and help and talk and be all like, bright and breezy and whatever else. But I just know that sometimes there's a time and a place for that, and I'll pick moments. But what this does is it makes you really forgiving, understanding, and appreciative of every person. There you go. Good stuff. Right. Dana, Rosanna, I don't know if you guys want to say anything. I mean, it's great to see you. I don't know if you want to share anything rather than we just disappear. But Rosanna's written some really long words in there as well in the chat box. So thank you for that, Rosanna. It's great to see you as well. Dana, do you want to share anything before we go? I can see you
Turn my
looking.
audio button.
Hi.
No, I love this. I met Lewis years ago and did some the trainings in Houston. My cousin Judy Disney got me turned on to this. I don't know if you know Judy, Mark, or not, but I've been an educator for about 40 years, and so I just love, and I teach psychology now, so I just love learning about people and of course how they tick, and so this is just up my alley. It's my jam. I just think it's wonderful work, and this is very energizing today to think about, okay, I need to kind of resurrect this back on my campus with some of my colleagues and some of the student cohorts that I did right after my training. So I really appreciate being on and being here and seeing all the wonderful comments in the chat function. Thank you.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. That's amazing. Thank you. And what a great way to finish. Yeah, the chat box has been alive there. It's been great. I've taken, a lot of the words and just saved them and everything. And I just think it's fantastic. So I want to say onwards and upwards. We'll be back in a month's time. Please watch out for emails and all the other great stuff that we share. If you need anything or want anything, you can WhatsApp us, you can talk to us. Our job is to help and bring some joy to the world. So, Lewis, I'd like to thank you. If you would like to just say any final words, Lewis.
No, just again, thank you very much to everybody. I think it's wonderful. I just think it's such a privilege to be part of all of this, and long may this e-colors thrive, because the more people that understand it, all the better. And Mark, I'm still looking for the after party now that you've got an Oscar.
Come on. Right, listen, we'll love you and leave you. If you're in the US, go and have a wonderful day. If you're in the UK, go and have a wonderful evening. And let's enjoy the weekend. Lots of love, everybody.
All the best.
See you all soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.